don't just say that you've read the books. Show that through them that you've learned to think better from the lessons. That was a line, Epictetus line, that. Very true. Really important that when you read things in books, I've been doing a few videos recently about lessons from books. I think I did one live the other night. It was a late one, that you only need one lesson from every book. And I've got a few here actually, because I'm still going to do a long form on that, because I think it's important. And I've also done other videos in the past about the difference between being a theologian and a practitioner. And that simply means what you don't want to be, because you're watching YouTube now for a start. It's quite easy for us to sit there and listen to YouTube for a long period of time. It can teach us a lot of things, but you've got to be careful that you don't get in the danger of just consuming content and not putting it into action. It's like an armchair theologian. So whatever you're trying to learn, you've got to put it into practice. I was just listening to something, a few people, I listened to 2 videos on visualization, because I believe in visualization to a point. When you're setting a new goal, visualizing that goal, a bit like what I do in the journal. You create like a goal, like a result that you want. And I also talk about identity, so like creating this identity for yourself, which is like a visualization for yourself. And then every day, part of journaling, you've got the gratitude bit, and then you've got what you're going to work on today. And then you've got this section here, which is affirmations that set my state. Now, positive affirmations are basically a visualization. An affirmation is a visualization. So being able to visualize yourself, and also when you're visualizing this affirmations, it's all about state management. Thank you for the sub, by the way. So it's all about state management. So visualization is really powerful. And I was just listening to even Joe Rogan's opinion on visualization, which I thought was quite... It was asking a neuroscientist, and the neuroscientist guy was saying how important it is to visualize. And I think Joe Rogan was talking about Eddie Bravo, and his jiu-jitsu. And also, thank you, cheers. I was talking about Eddie Bravo and his jiu-jitsu, and how he visualizes the jiu-jitsu. And a lot of martial artists do this before they actually go into practice. And that and affirmations, what I do in the journal, it's all about state management, preparing yourself in terms of state for what you're going to achieve, right? And so that's what visualization is. But it's, back to the topic here, why we read things. Like I said the other night when I did the live stream, there's always a lesson you can learn from a book, right? Whatever book you're reading, you need to find at least one lesson for it, right? One lesson from every book is enough. It makes it worth reading. I'm just reading this one now. Traction, Gino Wickman. It's a bit of a business book. So this one is Gino Wickman came up with the entrepreneurial operating system. It's a bit of a slogan, but it's basically quite a simplified model on how to reason. Right, we're back on. Right, cool. For some reason, somebody tried to ring me then, and the video just cut out, and I'm just on my phone. So from every book that you read, you need to pick out a good lesson from that book, right? And then, like I said, you don't want to be an armchair theologian. You've got to then put it into practice. And if you think about like visualization being like the mental side of goal achievement, the practical side of it is in the implementation, right? So whilst all the knowledge is contained in books, good books like this one, Thinking Fast and Slow, you'll find nuggets in these books, brilliant lessons. It only becomes realized when you put it into practice. So, like, that's why in the description of this live, I put the quote from Epictetus, which is, don't just say that you've read the books, show it through the lessons that you've learnt, in those books. And that's what you want to do. And that is very similar to why I'm talking about visualization, is because to visualize is a mental state management and preparedness. To read is to acquire lessons mentally. But all goal achievement is in the doing. It's all, everything that you read, you've got to then implement. And if I think, even from myself, all the books that I read, right, there's some mega lessons, you know what I mean? It's like this one, Order Out of Chaos, right? This is Scott's book, was my coach. Scott coached me for 3 years. This is all about communication. I learned about active listening. I took that on board. Business meetings, sales meetings, fabulous knowledge. You've got to put it into practice. That's actually, I found this very, very hard to put into practice, because communication, one of the fundamental skills, needs reps, just like training a martial art. You need reps to get good at it. So, think about when Eddie Bravo is talking about visualizing jiu-jitsu. He's put in the reps in jiu-jitsu, by the way, but that's what he does. He visualizes it, and then he goes to put it into practice. You know what I mean? It's like you're creating a motor skill there. It's autonomous. It's like tying your shoelaces, right? There was a time when you was a little kid where you couldn't even tie your shoelaces properly, or maybe you had to think about it a bit more. Or what about when if you drive a car, if you got a driving license, that first lesson, you was all over the place. I remember my first lesson. Now it's like autonomous. You've built that motor skill, and that's the same with anything through life. So learning to communicate, right, whether it's stuff like this, whether it's stuff like that, models, which is like dating, but you can also use that in business, whether it's like 48 laws of power, using those skills, in your communication to get what you want. Practicing communication is in the reps. It's in, there's a lot of, I did a video about a week ago on the 4 levels of competence. At first you're unconsciously incompetent at something, because you don't even know. You don't know what you don't know. Then you become consciously incompetent because you realize you've got a knowledge gap. And then as you get practicing, you've got this conscious competence at first when you start getting the skill down. And that's when you're really practicing. It's like me, I'm learning piano. I've got to be consciously practicing, conscious competence. But you want to become unconsciously competent. So it's just like a motor skill, or like a repetition. It's a bit like driving the car. You don't even think about it. You just get in and drive, and it's like, it feels so autonomous, just like walking, just like building communication skills. Now, some other skills I find easier, when you learn from books. I've got a lot of books on diet. I've got a simple one here, Pete 40, but I've got so many, like the biohacking books, like I've got Peter Attia's Outlive and all the rest of it, right? And all of the books that I've read on like health and diet, I've now got it down. I've got my own style. I've even got my own, if you go to my website, I've got my own diet plan. Tons of videos on cooking that I've done. So I've kind of mastered that. But it took me about 6 months worth of reading things like keto diets, about protein, things like this. That it took, yeah, I spent about 6 months of reading and the biohacking stuff, about body inflammation and things like this. But now, like, and another thing, on diet, like I've read all this stuff on health and fitness. And like I say, it took months and months of reading. Then I got the skill down, then I could cook, and then, you could start. And then other things like I was tracking calories when training. And now I don't even have to track calories. I can just almost feel it in my body. Oh, this stream, right? You just asked that comment. So the stream is about what you read in books, you've got to put it into practice. So it's like the difference between being a theologian, like an armchair theologian, and a practitioner. And what I'm trying to say is no matter what you read, you're actually building habits. You're putting it into practice, into action, and you're building habits. And I went through some examples about, communication, different styles. Even that one's communication. 48 Laws of Power, Order Out of Chaos, Scott Walker, Negotiation, Mark Manson's Models, Dating. It's all about communication. But when you read those things, you must put it into practice in your day-to-day life. And then I went on to talk about a few things about diet, health and fitness. But there are so many things like a great one that I've read. Where's it gone? Right. Thinking Fast and Slow. Daniel Kahneman. This is a great book, right? It's quite heavy reading actually, but you can see how battered it is because I've hammered it. Look how many notes I've put in it and all that sort of stuff. So the amount of lessons I've got out of this book, how people think, how emotions cloud people's judgments. And one of the biggest lessons I learned in this book is helps you with taking risks. So if you ever want to achieve anything in life, you've got to take a risk, right? You've got to make some changes, and that means resistance, forming new habits. Feels risky. So to take risks, I learned in this book a lot. So things like understanding loss aversion. People will do more to avoid pain than they will to seek pleasure. There's like an equation on loss aversion. I think I mentioned it the other night that people will generally need, if you're going to take a risk and you want a favourable outcome, but you're also worried if it doesn't work out, you'll generally need the upside to be 1.5 to 2.5 times the downside in order to take that risk. Now, what you've got to do is understand that that's an emotional response, and you need to train yourself to take risks on the smallest asymmetrical upside, All right, I'll answer this question. Can you tell me a little life advice? I'm 15 and I'm struggling in my life. Well, ask me a question. What do you want to know? Being 15, it's difficult being 15. The great thing about being 15 is you're 15. So having the ability to have this knowledge right now and listen to things on YouTube and learn, right, at your age is a fabulous, I would say, is a great opportunity. Because when I was 15, there wasn't really YouTube around or things like this. Maybe you read some books and things, but the world was a lot smaller, and you was listening to certain, influences, which was generally around your smaller, localized environment, whether that was your teachers, your parents, all that kind of thing. Now you've got a lot of wider audiences. So I think having that ability, first thing, accept that you're 15. You know what I mean? It's like, shit, you're not going to hit your prime until much later in life. So just accepting that you're 15 and, you've got your life ahead of you. So it's a bit like take a growth mindset. It's like, you know what, I'm 15, I've got nothing at the minute, I'm worth nothing. But here's what, tomorrow I'm going to be better. What am I going to do? Start learning great skills like reading things like this. I'm going to read it, I'm going to understand about taking risks. And then I'm going to go for it because I'm going to take the lessons in here. I've got nothing to lose. Take that growth mindset. Understand that, things are only going to get better. And I think that's the great thing. If you start now, it's like me, starting jiu-jitsu. I've been going about 2 years. I wish I'd started jiu-jitsu when I was 10 years old. I mean, modern jiu-jitsu wasn't around. It were all karate back then. But imagine you at 15 starting a skill now. Where would you be in 10 years? You'd be 25. And you could have 10 years worth of experience in that skill. You'd absolutely kill it. That is the potential if you take the right approach. Right? So, back to the topic of the video is don't just say that you've read the books. Show that through the lessons that you learn in them, that you've learned the lessons, you can implement them, demonstrate the lessons learned. And I think that's like one of the most important things. Here's a good one for you. I talked about this the other day. The Gap in the Gain, right? Really good book. Measure backwards, this one. Measure the gain, measure where you was yesterday and where you are today. And keep seeing that subtle incremental improvement. That's why, I wonder if I've got it here. Yeah, I have. That's why I journal. I mean, obviously I sell these because I created it because I'm that passionate about journaling, but that's why I journal, right? I read things and I implement the lessons I learn in books. And then every day I document, like I'm going to set intentions, what I'm going to work on, right? Gratitude. What I'm going to work on each day. They're always moving me. I always say I do 3 things a day, working towards your goals. So you read books to get the knowledge, implement the skills, set some goals, work towards them. 3 small things a day. Only needs to be small things, as long as you're consistently moving forward. And the good thing about journaling is you document in your life in the moment. You can then measure backwards. After 6 months, you can read back and you can, wow, look at all that work I've done. And it feels fabulous, right? It feels really good. So, yeah, read books, implement the lessons, and you're forming new habits every day from those lessons, right? So any new change is going to take a bit of resistance. Form the new habits and reinforce them every day, right? So that could be, I'm going to build some big muscles, right? What do I need to do? Read some books, probably listen to some videos, some of the big content creators on that, learn some new skills, sort my diet out, get in the gym, be consistent, understand that it ain't going to happen in 6 months. It's probably going to be, if you think about building muscles, it takes years, right? So if you want to do something like that, but the consistent, working towards that goal each day is how you achieve. It's in the consistency. So yeah, you've got to implement and form those habits like I do. There's a new video on my channel today about create reusable mental models. I suggest, I've not put the link down below, but go and have a look at that one because I talk about these reusable mental models, skills that you can acquire and then keep applying through your life to get more and more results. And there's certain things that you can learn. But I've learned everything from just reading books. And there's certain things that you can learn that you can then use time and time again. Every single project, goal, business opportunity, job, interest, hobby, you can reuse those same skills time and time again. So go and check out that video. It is really good because it's about habit forming, really. It's about picking up these mental models, internalizing them, and then forming habits. And a lot of it, I do actually talk about a lot of the books, like communication books and skills. How to communicate is that universal skill. How to negotiate, things like moderator chaos. How to negotiate with other people and communicate and influence people is a huge skill. And then a few on business things like search engine optimization, marketing skills, inbound versus outbound traffic, paid versus organic, all those things, right? And then how to start a business. It doesn't matter what business, always need the same four things. I think I went through it in the video, right? You need passion. It needs to be where your intellectual interests are. You need a unique skill, something that not many people can do. You don't want to be in a race to the bottom, something that everyone's doing. I'm not saying you need to be a one-on-one. You want to know that there's some competition there because that's healthy. But you want to do something that's not, it's something unique, something that you do really well, right? And then you need to understand leverage, how to leverage media and technology, right? And then you want accountability. So I would suggest you go and have a look at that video. But just to summarize, remember, don't just say you've read the books. Show that through the lessons that you've learned in those books, how you implement it in life. Make sure you're a practitioner, not just a theologian. So implement the skills you learn. Right. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. And, go and watch my other videos. See you all next time.